Hello, and welcome to Instant Insights, a strategic intelligence podcast. At Global Data Strategic Intelligence, we track over 100 tech, industry, ESG, and macro themes impacting all major sectors. I'm Martina Raveni, and today I will be talking to Thomas Pothalingam, analyst from the Strategic Intelligence team, to talk about his recent report, Navigating Climate Regulations. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Martin.
Today we will be discussing how to navigate climate regulation. Of course, it's a huge topic and very difficult, and it's affecting all companies across all sectors because companies must be proactive and adapt to climate regulation as it evolves to changing circumstances and attitudes globally. Those companies who fail to prepare will suffer. Different countries, sectors, and companies will be affected by a growing collection of regulations to different extents, but fundamental questions remain over how operations will change to mitigate the worst impacts of climate change. And this is what I want to discuss with you today. So, Tom, what's going on with the climate regulation?
So, I'd like to dive into the details of what companies must directly contend with when it comes to climate regulation, as in what is the purpose of sustainability reporting standards? Is the regulatory environment really becoming more comprehensive? And how are major economies around the world approaching these issues? So, mandatory sustainability reporting rules require companies to measure, report, and verify various sustainability-related information. Their aim is to harmonize the information companies provide so that it can be compared and tracked over time, providing investors, companies, and the wider public with verifiable and accurate data that reflects these companies' true environmental performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the first question that comes to everyone's mind is like, is there a sort of general, I don't know, organization where the companies can look at or like touch base on those regulations?
Yeah, absolutely. So the International Financial Reporting Standards, or IFRS Foundation, has established a set of reporting standards that are becoming the global baseline for sustainability reporting. These standards sometimes referred to as ISSB standards and are being adopted or aligned with across the world. These prescribe how a company reports its sustainability-related risks and opportunities and how it manages them, covering areas such as their governance, their strategy specifically, the metrics and their targets, as well as the risk management. So as of January 2025, over 60% of the G20 countries have adapted or aligned to the International Sustainability Standards Board, or ISSB standards, for sustainability reporting. And according to a 2025 survey by the Global Reporting Initiative, or GRI, approximately 70% of multinational corporations are now using ISSB standards in their sustainability reporting, a significant increase from just 40% in 2022. The US is the most notable exception in the adoption of ISSB standards, while the EU is introducing the most comprehensive reporting and transparency rules, but are planning to scale them back. Some progressive US states, China, Japan, and India, all also introducing reporting requirements to different extents. But however, in the US, federal rules will be scrapped and are in the process of being watered down.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. We have the International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, and we have the International Sustainability Standards Board, or ISSB.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay. Following on that, this is clearly one aspect of climate regulation, but we know it covers far more than that. And another key element of climate regulation are emission trading systems, or ETS. So I wanted to ask you, how do these work and how they've been adopted globally, or like are they having material impact on companies' operations?
Sure. So emissions trading systems, or ETS, function as a market-based approach to controlling pollution by companies. So governments set a cap on the total amount of certain pollutants that can be emitted by certain industries, and companies are then given allowances for their emissions, which they can trade. If a company reduces its emissions below its allowance, it can then sell its extra allowances to other companies that are unable to do so. This creates this financial incentive for companies to reduce their emissions.
And being a financial incentive, in a way, I'm guessing that these emission trading systems approach is growing, is gaining ground.
Yes, absolutely. So the adoption of ETS is growing globally. As of now, there are 36 ETS in operation and 14 in development, according to the International Carbon Action Partnership, or ICAP. The EU and China are leading the way with the most disruptive ETS expansions, but the EU ETS has been in operation since 2005 and is continually expanding its coverage. ETS are already impacting companies' practices, particularly in high-emitting industries like power, steel, cement, and chemicals. These companies are facing rising compliance costs and are being incentivized to invest in decarbonization technologies. In the future, as ETS coverage expands, more companies and more aspects of companies' value chains will have to contend with ETS. This will likely lead to an increased investment in sustainable technologies and strategies to reduce emissions. For example, power companies will need to invest in low emission power generation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another important approach that merge well with the other two we covered before. While sustainability reporting standards and ATS expansion try to mandate companies to act and follow a certain way, state support for low carbon tries to help companies to achieve these goals. It's not just rules you need to abide.
Mhm.
What form does state support for low carbon take? And is it impacting companies' practices already, or it's more a long term? And how will it change in the future?
So, state support for low carbon industry is provided through various mechanisms such as subsidies, tax incentives, grants, renewable energy adoption, loans, and investments tied to low carbon initiatives, or less burdensome appeals and approval processes, or extra support for planning for renewable energy plants and fossil fuel phase outs. These supports have been instrumental in developing clean energy supply chains and have significantly influenced companies' practices.
So there is support.
There is support. For instance, the 2019 EU Green Deal and the 2022 US Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, have been key policy support packages around the world. Changes are expected in the future, however. In the EU, state support is expected to decline over the next 5 years, shifting away from state financing and subsidies towards less costly methods like streamlining planning approval processes for renewable energy projects. Currently, state support has been essential. For example, cumulative government support for clean energy technologies since 2020 has reached almost $2 trillion. This support has been crucial for companies to invest and adopt these low carbon technologies. But the support for this will change as geopolitical tensions and changes in state policies will undermine these initiatives. For instance, the Trump administration's halt on the IRA funding will make it more expensive for US companies to decarbonize.
Thank you very much, Tom, for those insights. That was really interesting and I'm sure very useful for many businesses. You can find out more from the Navigating Climate Regulation report on our intelligence centers as well as on the report store. Thanks all for listening, and from us in Strategic Intelligence, see you next time.